Welcome to the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. This is your go-to resource for personal growth, mastering communication, and influencing and persuasion techniques that will help you unleash the full potential of yourself and others. Here is your host, Alex Morgan.
Welcome to another episode of the Hyper Growth Zone podcast. My name is Alex Morgan, and I'm a master trainer of hypnosis and NLP. And in this episode, we are welcoming Joey Joyful, who is a hypnologist and a mindfulness teacher. He loves to share the neuroscience behind habit change and nervous system regulation. Having been on the receiving end of addiction, chronic pain, anxiety, and even suicidal thoughts, Joey was able, through NLP, hypnosis, meditation, gratitude journaling, and a microdosing protocol that lasted 9 months, to give birth to this new avatar that is free from addiction, pain, and anxiety. And today he is happy to share his experience and expertise to help you on your joyful journey as well. Joey offers one-on-one teachings. He also offers workshops, online courses, and conferences. All right, Joey, thanks so much for coming on the show. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for the invitation. Glad to be here, Alex.
Yeah, we were talking about some really cool stuff ahead of the recording, and you just started this new club, the Be Human Club. So can you just give a little background on why you started that and what people can accomplish in there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a few years ago, me and one of my good friends, Scott, we were both in the past battling with depression, anxiety, pain, addiction. And one of the things that we realized that helped us the most was really community, to be able to count on people around us. And we realized that there was this one survey that came out that very rare are the men that are able to find people at 2 a.m. that they could call if anything happened. And we realized that we had that each other. That together we were able to count on the other person regardless of the time or the situation. And we wanted to offer that to other people, not just men, but to humans in general. We live in trying times, and sometimes people wonder, what does it mean to be human today? You know, like humanity, where are we going? And it's easy to follow the fold of wherever the corporations are bringing us and governments. But we as individuals and humans and collectively little communities, where do we want to go? So we wanted to be part of the solution. And right now it's an online community mainly, but we're doing also things in person, and we're sharing our passion for the daily practice of meditation, of breath, of movement, and hypnosis, and anything that really helps us live the healthy lifestyle.
That's awesome. You mentioned a few things like anxiety, depression, addiction, all of these things. So did you use meditation, breath work, movement, hypnosis for all this? Is that why you tie it all in? Can you give us a bit of background on that?
Yeah, for sure. The first time that I was confronted with my addiction, my drinking problem, I guess, was maybe 20 years ago, when a friend of the family, I was talking with him and he said, maybe I could help you manage drinking with hypnosis. I'm like, what do you mean hypnosis? And I just laid down on the couch. He did a quick little metaphor. I was going down this river with him, I think. And another time, second hypnosis, he brought me down a beach. And on this beach coming down, there was two sides to the beach. There was this dark side that was dirty, people were sick, and this bright side, sunny, where people were playing. And he said, you know, Joey, when you get down on the beach, you could choose whatever side you want. And obviously I went to the sunny side and the healthy side. And I started making those healthy choices in my life after. And I really found it interesting that just after a few imagery in a few sessions, that I was able to shift my mindset towards drinking. So I started studying hypnosis, and I integrated hypnosis with gratitude, journaling, with meditation into a protocol that lasted about 9 months. And on the other side of that, Joey Joyful was born. And Joey Joyful does not need to drink. So I was free of that addiction forever since.
That's awesome. Congrats on that. We were kind of both talking about our sobriety from drinking before, so it's always nice to, speak to someone who's, taking their health and everything seriously. You mentioned gratitude and journaling as well. Can you give us a few examples how gratitude has really helped Joy Jofo and explain that a bit as well.
Yeah, for sure. When I started studying meditation a little bit more, I got trained to be a teacher, a meditation teacher. And in my studies at one point, there was these meditations, these metta meditations that's all about love and kindness and compassion. And inside of those trainings, there was the aspect of just be grateful for what's happening, because as you say thank you, as you look for the positive, all of a sudden your life becomes about gratitude and thankfulness and beauty. Because we could look for, we know this in hypnosis, right? When we look for a problem, we're going to find the problem. And it was part of my mind that loved to be right. And I was just devouring information. And part of my life was about sharing the information and telling people how I was right, that this world is wrong, and look at all the problems. And then I realized that's all I was seeing was the problems. I was not seeing any solutions. And I started developing this gratitude journaling process every morning, every evening, where I was writing 3 to 5 gratitudes, things I was grateful for. And very quickly, I learned to add myself in the gratitude journaling, because often we say, my health, I'm happy for my home, I'm happy for my family, their health. And somebody told me, but what about adding yourself and the actions you're doing in your gratitude? So I'm grateful for the time I take for my health. I'm grateful for the choices I make. And by putting myself first, I actually learned to fill my pitcher, like to fill myself up first before giving of myself to others. Because one thing I did notice was that many people that deal with addiction are very sensitive people. And we have this ability, empaths, a lot of people call it, that we feel what other people feel. And very quickly we believe that it's our responsibility to heal people. Like we take on their pain because we're able to manage the pain and we're able to go and heal ourselves after. But then half of my life, I was just tired all the time and sick. So I realized, you know what, I just need to take care of myself. I just need to shine bright. And that's what I liked about what you were talking about earlier, Alex, in regards to teaching. I like to teach. I like to show people, because then you're just that light in the darkness and people see the lightness and they come towards you and oh, can I light my torch on your candle? Can I just ignite my own consciousness? And then that person leaves and you don't have responsibility over them. It's not that I don't want that responsibility, but it isn't mine. I take care of my health and my happiness. And if that ignites somebody's consciousness, well, I'm glad, and I'm there to share that.
Yeah, I thought what you said about, because I do the normal gratitude, like you say, my house, my car, my family. I never really do the part of, hey, myself, or the time I took to make sure that I did better today, or the time that I put into exercising so my body's doing this. Because, if we think about it, our body's capable of amazing things, but we don't really sit there and think, wow, it can do this and this, because we're usually caught up in the monotony of day to day. So you mentioned a few things about teaching meditation and all of this. So is it a specific type of meditation you teach? What kind of things do you teach people? Is it like them just starting out to learn the basics, or more advanced? How does that work?
I tend to teach the whole spectrum, actually. I love to ignite somebody into the possibility of starting, because most people don't believe they're able to meditate because they don't know what meditation is. Like for me, it's more mindful meditation, just mindfulness, being aware of what's there without any judgment, and not feeding it, but not preventing it either. And it's not about finding that space where there's no thoughts, because that's a dead brain. Dead brains don't think. Besides that, everybody's going to think some thought, some emotion, something. So I like to engage people introduction. Lately, I've been giving a contract where I'm going to be teaching yoga teachers on how to meditate well. By no means am an expert, because who's an expert in meditation? And but I've incorporated many different aspects of hypnosis, of spirituality, of meditation, the meta meditation. I don't know if we want to go there, but even some microdosing, some plant medicine that has helped me touch on different aspects of what universe is. Like, what is the universe? And when you connect with the infinite spaces inside yourself, and your consciousness is not local to yourself anymore, and you're able to connect with everything, there's another level that appears, and and maybe manifesting your life becomes a bit easier. And it's not to be woo-woo or any like a psychic or anything, but whatever emotion you hold in your heart, and you think a thought, and then you say a word, and then you do an action, and eventually it just manifests in your life. You created it, because everything in this life has been created by someone's emotion, intention, thought, word, process, action, and how to streamline that essentially. And I've been noticing how when I raise my vibration, when I'm able to go into those emotions of joy, of peace, of love more often, with gratitude, with all these practices, I'm able to manifest the life that I'm imagining more often and more quickly. So it's really a question of, where is my energy right now? How can I share that energy? How can I teach people to do the same? And then if I enjoy these people, can I hang out with them? Because they're great people.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are great people when we get to know them. And that's actually one of the reasons why I love doing this podcast, is because I get to learn from other people who are an expert at what they do, just like yourself. So let's say someone, comes, to learn meditation and something like this. Like, I know what I can get out of meditation. You know what you can get out of meditation. And you mentioned a few things like different feelings, joy, and things like this. What are some things that people have said that are just like, wow, I'm so glad I learned this from you. I'm so glad I know how to meditate right now. What are a few reasons why they're saying this?
I think the first thing that comes to mind, it's a great question. First thing that comes to mind is the effortlessness that I'm able to help people attain, because it does seem as if there's an effort, and there is certainly a practice, a discipline. But to my mind, the way I see it, the way I've experienced it, meditation becomes effortless, because it's really a question of not feeding, but not resisting either. It's becoming the observer. When you're sitting on the park bench and you're looking at the clouds go by in the sky, and you become that consciousness that's sitting on the park bench, and the thoughts are the clouds, and the sky is your world, is your innerscape, and you could engage, you could try and move those clouds faster or slower, but ultimately, do you really have power over that? And I think it's enjoyment of life, definitely, by taking a step back. And another thing that helped me a lot is when you're meditating and you're writing, because there's a journaling that I always suggest people to have at the same time, you start seeing your thoughts. You start realizing the thoughts that are swimming in your mind. Because hypnosis to me is changing the thoughts, changing the innerscape. Meditation is noticing what's there. And journaling is the affirmations that you're changing. Like, what do I want to change it to? So the three-pronged process is really helping me notice what's there, loosen it up by removing the trauma associated with it, and then changing it to what I really want to create. So the process is meditation, hypnosis, journaling. And microdosing came into that because that's just an amplifier. So people could do that or not, and it's just go faster.
Okay, why don't you mentioned that a couple of times. Why don't you just expand on that a little so people know what it's all about, microdosing?
Well, at one point, when I was looking at addiction, I found this text talking about Bill, I forget his last name, but one of the founders of the AA movement, Cowboy Bill, I forget his name. But he wanted to add a 13th step to the AA 12 steps, and it was actually taking LSD. Because when he touched upon the God force, it was with an LSD trip. And there's certain things that happen when you're meditating. You could stop meditating and it's done. If you're doing hypnosis, you could just wake up and it's done. If you take plant medicine, you open your eyes, it's not done. Plant medicine is not done with you yet. You're on the roller coaster ride, and it's going to bring you till the end. And it's like 10 years. I mean, the macro dose is one thing, microdose is another. I prefer the micro dose. But it really loosens up our thought process. It opens up our awareness, and it really helps deepen quickly our consciousness of who we are and our place in the world. So it's by no means us replacing one drug by another, because I don't do it all the time. I did it for a moment, and it's recommended to do it for a moment and stop. And I think I see it as an amplifier, but as a neuroplastic element as well. So meditation is very neuroplastic, helping you change the processes and the connection synapses in your brain. Great gratitude is the same thing. It changes the biology of your brain. Hypnosis, of course, is very neuroplastic. You're able to change the chemistry of your mind. And the connections. And so I just wanted to do it faster. I just wanted, because I'm sometimes impatient to feel good. That's why I went to addiction. But now I found another way. And joy is really, for me, is the compass. That's why I called myself joyful. Because when I remembered through the different protocols I was doing, I remembered the joy I felt when I was young. And when I wonder why I'm doing this today, and when I have those thoughts that are sometimes angry or violent in my mind, I just think of the young Joey that's in my brain, that's in my heart. And in hypnosis, I don't know if you learned this or how you perceive this, but at one point I heard that the unconscious mind is about 7 years old. From the moment where you started creating your critical faculty, your unconscious stayed young and you started building your adult persona. And the personas are just there to protect the person, and the person is about 7. Well, that's a little bit how I used microdosing to help myself.
No, that's really interesting. I haven't done anything like that myself, just to be honest, not that people would care either way. You mentioned the unconscious mind. So of course from, let's say 0 to 7, we're kind of soaking up everything like a sponge, and that can really shows us like who we're going to be based off who we're around and the programs that we're taking in when we're younger. So can you expand on that a bit for people who might not be, let's say, all the way aware of this, and how you can think about that in different ways to then create, new results for yourself?
Sure. So the way that I've understood it and I teach it is from 0 to 7, like you said, we absorb everything like a sponge. We have no critical faculty. That means we can't discern what's true or not true. The monster is real under your bed. Really is a monster, and the boogeyman exists, and tooth fairy and all of that is true because people tell you. And everything you're receiving is your initial programming, your hardwired, deep programming that's underneath everything. And as soon as either your first trauma appears or you start building up your critical faculty, then you start closing off. And then you're like, wait a second, there's no Santa Claus? What else have you been telling me that's not true? So you start seeking out for truth. And now you're going more towards your friends. You're not looking at the family so much anymore. You're not looking at the teachers or the doctors, and you're like, wait a second, let me create my own world. But whatever's already programmed in is going to stay there. And that's the repeating patterns, cycles that we're creating in our life. And hypnosis and NLP are very closely linked, and one uses trance, the other one not as much. But NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, talks about how we can only ever concentrate on nothing more than 5 to 7 elements every second. Like right now you're listening to this, so your ears are very engaged, and maybe you feel the sunshine on your skin if you're outside, or maybe the clothes and the temperature in the room. Maybe you're hungry. Maybe your left little toe is aching right now, but you didn't think about it until I said it. But that was all aware. That was all present in your unconscious mind, and your unconscious is going to bring about those elements to you when you think about them. So the journaling process for me is really to be able to focus on what's important. Because if you're not focusing on what's important, your unconscious is going to manage it for you. And the unconscious manages your long-term memory, your emotions, your reactions, your immune system, all your biological functions. So 95% of your life is unconscious. So when I look at people and I tell them, you could manage this, but you need to focus and prioritize and know your values, all of a sudden it's easier to make choices and you're not following everybody else around. And to my mind, that's what awakening is. It's awakening to who you are, what's important to you, and believing that you're able to change. Because there are those people that have a fixed mindset, I'm not good in math. And there are those people that have a growth mindset, let me learn how to do this better. And the first thing when you're going in personal development, regardless of the modality you're using, you need to believe you could be better. So I often invite people to question their beliefs, especially the ones that are keeping you stuck in the same state. If you don't like that state, if you like it, stay there.
What are some of the beliefs? Because, I can think of a few off the top of my head, but what are some of the beliefs that a lot of people should question, or that they probably have just based off, past programming and things like this? Because I see common ones always come up, but what's your take on this?
Well, sometimes the people don't even realize the beliefs they have, but it's just in the way that they're going about in life and accepting, you're choosing what you're not changing. and they stay in a violent or a toxic relationship, or they stay in the job that's not paying them what they deserve. They don't believe that they're able to teach people things, but you're looking at them and you're a wealth of knowledge. And these beliefs are keeping the people small. And you hear it in their language, I don't deserve that. Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I don't need to be happy today. And I can't afford it. Why would I want to do that anyway? I don't have time for a trip. And especially I don't have time. Like whenever somebody says I don't have time, look at how long they spend on their phone or their Netflix history. Like, you don't have time? You have 24 hours like everybody. It depends on how you want to allocate your time. But you need to believe that you're worth it first. If you believe you're worth it, you're going to go out and get it. If you don't believe you're worth it, you're not even going to try. And who is it? Was Henry Ford that said, regardless if you believe you can or you can't, you're right. And that's the belief systems. That's back to NLP, where we're talking about the logical levels of DILTs. And your belief systems is going to determine what you're able to do, what you're going to do, and eventually change your environment. And actually, I used that model very much when I decided to become sober. And I realized that in my belief systems, I thought I was my addiction. I am an addict. I am an alcoholic. I was saying it out loud. I didn't want to believe that anymore, so I had to change. I had to change my mission statement to change who I was.
So what did you change it to? You're just curious.
My mission statement?
Yeah.
Because to say to the people listening, belief systems is right underneath your identity, and identity is right underneath your mission. So knowing I had to change my identity, which was I am an alcoholic, I created this mission statement that was, I want to optimize my body splendidly. My physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual body. I want to share what I learned massively with others, and I want to have a blast every day.
Well, that sounds like a blast. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing.
Appeared.
Yeah, now here he is. Yeah, that's the thing. It's I drank for many years. I haven't drank for a lot of years now, but I never really considered myself like I'm an alcoholic or not. I never really gave myself that identity label, whatever anyone wants to say. I rarely even say now like I'm sober or anything like that. I'm just like, hey, I'm just enjoying my life now because I realize that it's so much better without it. Just touching back to the beliefs, just something I want to share too. It's like when we're born, so everyone knows, you haven't taken on any programming yet. So you're essentially limitless when you're this small baby. You don't know, and then you take on all this programming, and then now is the time to choose, like, hey, I can be limitless again. So in your opinion, if someone is to think like that, like I can be limitless again, what would you recommend that they do to take on this thinking?
To take on the thinking that they are limitless, that they can actually become whoever they believe they can. It's funny, the first thing that comes to mind is start by taking inventory or stock of where you are right now. Because often I've noticed when I refuse where I am, it's going to be impossible for me to get where I want to go. And the analogy is always the GPS. You could have a GPS that's not turned on to the internet, could put in an address, but how are you going to get there? GPS doesn't know where you're starting from. So the first thing is really to take inventory and stock of where I am, what are my beliefs, what are my values, and then start thinking about maybe 20 years in the future, where do I see myself living? And what feels good? What maybe in my memories do I remember as being a good feeling? And who was there? What were we doing? Where was I? And from there, maybe backtrack and reverse engineer from where I am to where I want to go. And it's not going to be so much who I'm going to become, but it's more how I'm going to feel when I get there. Because the feeling for me is really the true self. Because thoughts, like you said, we didn't receive thoughts when we were born. We had emotions when we were born. But the thoughts, they were deposited in our minds from our teaching, our upbringing, even language. Depending on which language you use, you're going to have a different view on life. Certain languages don't have the word for suffering. Like we have the word for suffering. What is suffering? Oh, that's suffering. Oh yeah, I suffer sometimes. And all of a sudden you just fell in the trap. But if you don't have the definition, how are you going to get there? So what is that definition? Where do you want to, how do you feel once you're there? Who's there around you? What does it smell like? What does it look like? like you in Greece. As soon as you told me that you're in Greece, I started thinking, okay, what does that look like? And the food is great, and there's sunshine, and there's ocean, and there's people, and there's late suppers, and it's like all of a sudden I'm already smiling just because you told me where you are,
No, that's a really good point. Because everyone too, like whether or not that word means something to them, we're all going to have a different meaning of any word based off of our experience that we've had with that word too. So that's the great thing about that, is then we can always create a new experience at any time. Like you just did, you created a whole experience in your mind about a place that you've never been, because you told me you haven't been to Greece. So now you're thinking like, wow, this is pretty cool. And yes, we do have, it is all about the feeling, because anytime we're trying to achieve something, it is about feeling good. Because if we don't believe it and feel that we can do it, then, I mean, really nothing is going to happen. So I want to go back to the kind of the community that you're building. How can someone, get inside this community, and what can they kind of expect, once they get in and things like this?
That's a great question. So for right now, we're our site is behuman.club, and exactly as you write it. And I'm not sure if it's all in French. I think there's English in there. Yeah, I think there's English. And essentially, when you get into the platform, there's going to be a schedule, and in the schedule, almost every day there's going to be something to participate in. So we have daily practices, 6 a.m. Eastern time. Everything is recorded, so it's available to people after, not if it's not live. We have the type of exercises we have is Qigong, meditation, we have breath, we have movement with yoga or just regular physical activity. There's somebody starting tomorrow morning where he's going to be talking for 7 weeks about the ethereal body. So Reiki and traveling through the chakras. And we're science-based. I mean, a lot of what we're doing is very much based in science, but we're spiritual as well. So we want people to know that we're professionals, but at the same time, we're open to the world. And it's just whatever you have to teach us, we want to learn. So we're inviting experts to come, and we're opening up spaces for those experts. Like every single class that we have is a member of the club. It's not just the founders. So I'm giving a class, the two founders are giving classes, but experts that are coming in are giving classes as well. We have a master class every month on the last Wednesday of the month. Last one was the art of open questions. So people that are coaching, there was an Anglican priest that came that is well-versed in the Quaker method of open questions. And that's an old method that's dating back to 1660s. And essentially, it's really not painting an image to the person of what you want them to answer. In classical coaching, we're looking at the person, and we sort of change a little bit how we want to answer by the way the coach is looking at us. But in the classic method of open questions, you don't even look at the person. You're just opening up a space, and you're not, how well do you want to feel? Wait, I just imposed that I want that person to feel well. And the guy's going to tell me how well he's going to feel, but it's just, how do you feel about that? And maybe the guy's not going to answer, but that's okay. And we're just going to leave space for the person, because we want that person to hear the answer for themselves. I don't want to hear the answer. It's not even important for me if the person doesn't answer. So he was offering us that, the art of open question. That was the last master class. Every Monday at noon Eastern, we meet up just to get a pulse check-in of see how everybody's doing and how can we serve them in the community if they need help. We have community circles where that's just open, free flow. And eventually in-person events, maybe in Greece one time. But right now we're still staying on the island of Montreal.
The island of Montreal. So people that are in this community, because you mentioned community kind of at the start as well, do you see other people like connecting with other members in the group and kind of building their own like communities within the community based on, what they're each trying to accomplish? How are you, seeing that for people that are actually interested in community? Because it's a huge thing. So
actually, one thing that we really want to promote inside of the club is the experts themselves. Like, we want to shine light on the experts that are coming in, and we want to redirect people in our club to go see them if that is what they need. Like, we don't want to hold everybody stay inside the club and keep the money here, because it's actually a very low price point. It's $33 Canadian a month. You have 2 weeks free to join and explore. If you don't like it, you quit. It doesn't cost you anything. And you could pay yearly. You get 2 free months. Or you go monthly and you choose when you want to quit. If you want to stop for 2 months in summer, you stop, you come back in fall. And we just want it open. We just want to be part of the solution, open up dialogue. We're going to be getting a podcast going shortly. And Alex, hopefully you're going to come. And we want to, it's because every single human being on the planet has a different vision of what it is to be human. And we want to share that vision. We want a common vision, but at the same time, we want people's individual vision to shine through as well.
Yeah, and the thing that I got from that, this is how my mind was going, was it seems like it's a safe place for people to also share, like, hey, this is something I'm going through, and maybe other people are also going through the same thing. And at the same time, they're also looking like, wow, there's all these experts here and we can actually find really good solutions. So am I thinking correctly? Is this kind of what the kind of mission of it is then?
100%. I'm really glad that you see that with the little I've been talking about it, because it truly is a safe space for people to come and just discover who they are and who other humans are similar to them, and they want to hang out together. We actually might even shortly be calling the first couple that met inside of the Be Human Club. We have 2 people that sort of knew each other outside of it, and then they found each other again inside the club. And I think they've been having lunches together. So we're going to see if we have the first couple being formed inside.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Well, thanks for sharing all of this, because I think, like you said, there's trying times always in the world. And I think community is probably, I've read some books on this. I couldn't say the titles, but there's always books that are saying like the one thing that humans really need is community. So you mentioned where they could, find the club and all that. Just before we wrap up, if you have anything to add, please add it. And if people want to connect with you on social media or anywhere else, can you tell them, where they can find you?
For sure. So my internet site is joeyjoyful.com. I actually am developing a web app right now that hopefully is going to be accepted with Apple and Google soon. It's a HypnoJoy, so I'm sharing meditation and hypnosis inside of that. If you want to connect with me, just send me a message, either Facebook, Instagram, Joey Joyful, or I'm Joey Joyful on Instagram. And I'm very reactive. I respond very quickly to people. And my internet site, Joey Joyful, I offer a few free meditations there as well. So I just want to give people the tools to become sovereign souls, but collectively, inside of community.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Joey, for sharing everything. I learned a lot. I learned from everyone that comes on here. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Alex. It was great.
So thanks for listening. And wherever you listen to this podcast, please rate the podcast so it can get into the minds of more people. And I'd love to hear your feedback. And I hope to see you on the next episode.